Payday Plus San Francisco here at the Mission Neighborhood Center. I want to thank the Mission Neighborhood Center for hosting us here this morning. As I'm sure many of you know, any one of us can take a walk down Mission Street and see the countless examples of why we're here today. Predatory lenders plague this neighborhood as they do many other neighborhoods right here in San Francisco. We have decided these businesses are not helping our community. We feel they have no place in our community. Unfortunately, our hands are tied. We cannot outlaw these businesses, but we've decided to do the next best thing. We're going to offer an alternative, positive, beneficial financial product, and I would like to describe the Payday Plus product in a few minutes. But first, I'm going to ask our very good friend and very strong supporter, a longtime supporter of financial empowerment and helping us do a lot of good work for low-income San Franciscans, to join me up here and say a few words, Mayor Gavin Newsom.
Thanks, Jose. Well, Thank you all for taking the time to come out. I was just having a little private conversation saying what took us so long. It is immeasurably frustrating that we're here in almost 2010 when we should have been here in, well, 1980 when we started to realize that folks were living paycheck to paycheck, going to payday outlets, cash outlets, and getting these usurious interest rates. Most of them, the overwhelming majority, weren't able to pay them back within the prescribed period of time, so they were getting an additional loan. And all of a sudden, those loans start mounting up, their credit gets crushed, if they had any credit at all, and the obvious problems and travails ensue. And in San Francisco, we have long recognized this problem, and we initiated, as you may recall, a number of years ago, some efforts to create some antidotes to the problem. The most significant was Bank on San Francisco, which has become now truly a national model. 70-plus cities are replicating this. The governor, to his credit, about a year ago, Jose, I think we were up there in Sacramento, launched Bank on California. We're now seeing a similar initiative in cities large and smaller, similar initiatives. And that's the whole idea of getting people, particularly African-American community and Latino community, where roughly half population of both communities have no basic access to a checking or savings account or no relationship to a credit union, the opportunity to develop those relationships. And we started with just a handful of banks, and then credit unions came on board. Dozens and dozens now are participating in this model because they all realize that it's not only good business from a PR perspective, but it's good business from a bottom line perspective because this is a huge source of revenue and a new customer base for them. We've got average bank accounts that are now roughly $1,000. Thousands and thousands, in fact, 45,000 families have now gotten banked since we launched the Bank on San Francisco model. It's something to be truly proud of, and it really has resonated across this country. We started with the Working Families Tax Credit, the only city in the United States of America with a local earned income tax credit to allow working families to keep more of what they earn. The whole idea was not only to provide local money and resources for working families, but to leverage more of the federal earned income tax credit, because we all know that there's literally tens of millions of dollars that's left behind of money that's owed to people that they're unaware of. So that was the second part of the initiative in order to deal with the concerns in our diverse communities about financial empowerment, financial literacy, and advancing a framework of stability. The final point, though, are these payday loans and the announcement today. We tried, and Jose is right, we tried about 3 or 4 years ago to look at some zoning requirements to try to get rid of these places. As mayor, I want to get rid of them. As a business person, I understand why they exist. And with respect, they need to exist in the absence of an alternative because they actually do provide a service. It's just a very costly service and at times a very usurious service. And to the extent there are unscrupulous folks running these things, there are, and the extent that there are good people running them, there are as well. And I think that's important to note. But we didn't have a positive alternative. And so we did a ban on new ones, but we couldn't take care of all the old ones. And every time a lease comes up, we were down on Market Street with our MOEWD. There's a lease coming up for the payday loan, and we're talking to the landlords. We're literally calling landlords and saying, we got a much better tenant for you. So we're trying those strategies to get in. But that leads us to now, actually starting to substantively address the concern with this positive alternative. U.S. Conference of Mayors was kind enough to get us a small little grant to start this process. About a year ago, we were awarded something because they recognized the work on Bank on San Francisco and Working Families Tax Credit, and they thought this city could once again lead the way, and that's exactly what we're doing. We're going to get in this business, partnering with the same credit unions. Some of the folks that were already working with us on Bank on San Francisco do $50 minimum, $500 maximum loans, not at 400% APR, but about 18%, still high, respectfully, but not even close to the 400%. And we're going to allow people to keep more of their earnings, keep more of their wages, and we're going to allow them the opportunity to build some credit and to consolidate loans and to do a lot of the things that we have been preaching, and now we can finally practice and twin these efforts with those other efforts that Jose Cisneros and his team have exampled and led on. And so I just want to say in closing, thank you to Jose. This guy is just doing his good or better work than any other treasurer in the country, and I know that because everywhere I go, he's already been giving a lecture or a speech about some of our best practices. I want to thank the Board of Supervisors. I think all of us, even when I was on the board, we all cared about this issue, and I know we're all together and aligned with this. I want to thank Jackie Spear for being here, and I'm sure some of the work she's doing on a national level. Remember, there are more of these payday loan places than there are McDonald's and Starbucks combined. So don't think for a second these aren't pervasive in the context of the ubiquity that exists around the nation and the need to take these small examples. And I think it will be San Francisco's example and scale it across the state and country. And so that's why it's right that you're all here, because this is so much bigger than our small little 47.5 square miles. So thank you all for taking the time.
Thank you, Mayor Newsom. At this time, I would like to introduce Congresswoman Jackie Spear, who has been a tireless supporter of these works. She is working hard to put an interest rate cap into existence for the entire country. She's also been a strong supporter of the Consumer Financial Protection Agency. Please join me in welcoming Congresswoman Jackie Spear.
Thank you all. Mr. Mayor and Treasurer Cisneros, I've got to say, what Herb Cain said many years ago is true. This is the city that knows how. And what can't be accomplished on the federal level can be accomplished in communities across this country. And we're showing today that San Francisco is doing it once again. I can't say enough to the credit unions who are assembled here, because they are stepping up and doing what credit unions nowhere else in the country, and frankly, banks nowhere else in the country are doing. And that is, they are saying, come in, we will offer you a loan at 18% interest. And we will give you a much longer period of time to pay it off. And that's what's really very critical. I am carrying legislation on the federal level to cap usury at 36%. Now, people say 36%. Well, right now, people that are going into payday lenders are paying 400, 600, 2,000% interest on these loans that last for just 2 weeks. And from the very beginning of time, back in the Bible, in Exodus chapter 22, it was said, and I will quote, "If you lend money to any of my people who are poor among you, you shall not charge interest." Now, if it was so important back in the Bible, why aren't we dealing with it today? And I think that this is a great effort that will make not only people who are underbanked in a position to build their credit, which is really key. If you don't have credit and you can't build it, you will never get credit. And the result is a real debt spiral for many of these people. So I'm honored to be part of this effort here today. I'm also happy to announce that when we return to session in January, I will be introducing a new measure that will be creating an opportunity for community development financial institutions to partner with the federal government with the receipt of grants in which they will be able to offer loans of up to $2,500 that will unfortunately carry a 36% interest rate, but far less than what is being charged by payday lenders throughout the country. And it is our hope that, coupled with the Consumer Financial Protection Agency, which is going to be huge for all Americans. For the longest time, the Consumer Product Safety Commission's been around to make sure that toasters don't blow up in your face. Unfortunately, we've had financial products blowing up in people's faces over and over again. And as like the mayor had said, there are twice as many payday lenders in this country right now as there are McDonald's franchises. Something is fundamentally wrong that they have grown from a mere 500 15 or 20 years ago to over 20,000 today. So this is a huge step forward for San Franciscans. And again, I applaud the mayor and the treasurer and the credit unions of San Francisco. Thank you.
Thank you, Congresswoman Spear. Thank you so much for joining us. We have a couple of members of the San Francisco Board of Supervisors. I'd first like to invite up the supervisor for the Mission District, Supervisor David Campos, who's done an incredible amount of work in the area of financial empowerment. Supervisor.
Thank you, everyone. Good morning. Welcome to the Mission. Bienvenidos a la Misión. I have to say that I'm really proud to be standing here, and I want to thank Mayor Newsom for being here, and I want to thank Treasurer Cisneros for the very amazing work that he has done. I do think that it took a gay Latino city treasurer to do all the amazing things you have done, and I'm very proud as a queer Latino to see all the great work that you are doing. And I also want to thank Supervisor Tufte from the neighboring district for being here. Let me say this, that, I come from a working class family. My mom was a janitor. My parents put their kids through school by working 2 jobs, making minimum wage. And that kind of a family does not have a credit history. But as Bank on San Francisco has demonstrated, those families, and there are many of those throughout the Mission, pay their debts. They are responsible people, and it's simply because of their background and because of the fact that many of them are immigrants that they're not able to establish the credit history they need to get that very favorable interest rate. And I want to thank the credit unions for the work they do. And I also know that it's also a good investment for you because your money will be repaid. And even though I do think we do need to work on that 18%, as the mayor noted, I do think it's really commendable. And I think that the challenge now is to make sure that we provide that information to the community, that we educate the community. Because the problem is that many of these people don't have the access to that information to know that they have options. And that's where I think the challenge is. It's a great opportunity, but it really comes down to implementation. And so I think that that's one of the things that we have to take on. And, Treasurer Cisneros, whatever we can do to make that happen, and Mr. Mayor, whatever we can do to partner with you to make that happen. And I really want to thank you for taking that leadership. If I can just say a couple of words in Spanish. Solamente quisiera decir que a las familias que trabajan, yo entiendo que es muy difícil obtener esa clase de préstamo, pero yo sé como por mi propia experiencia que esas familias pagan sus deudas y es importante informar a nuestra comunidad para que sepan que hay otras opciones, que hay ese programa que reconoce que nuestra comunidad no tiene que pagar los intereses que ha pagado, aunque el porcentaje de 18% no es ideal. Es algo que es mucho mejor y es importante que nosotros informemos a nuestra comunidad, a nuestras familias, a nuestros amigos, para que nuestra comunidad siga adelante. So with that, thank you very much. I'm proud to be a part of this. And again, thank you for being here today.
Thank you, Supervisor Campos, and thank you for all your great work. I'd also like to introduce a very good personal friend of mine, Supervisor Bevan Dufty, also fighting for very many good programs in our city.
Thank you, Jose. Thank you. Good to see everybody this morning. It's great to be here. Hey, I just want to also acknowledge Tom Amiano, the predecessor to David, who's now in the State Assembly, because Tom worked with Jose in last year and the year before in really addressing the predatory practices of check cashing outlets. As someone who's a credit union member, I can say that there are no more consumer-oriented financial institutions than credit unions. So it's a great partnership between the city. I'm not as ambitious as the mayor is in terms of reading all the reports that are produced, but I will admit that my bedtime reading was the audited statement of the Treasurer's financial holdings, and it is close to $3 billion that the Treasurer invests on a daily basis, mostly in short-term assets for the benefit of the city. And I just want to say that Jose has done an amazing job of using the leverage of the financial investment that this office makes to make a social investment. And with Bank on San Francisco and with the mayor's support, it's become Bank on California, and now going to the federal level. I really think that this is a story and testament to what Jose has steadily done, and I think it really is benefiting immigrant families, working families here. And it's so wonderful to have Jackie here because we don't get to enjoy her. And I simply have to ask, how many people saw Jackie skateboarding on the Colbert Report, on the Stephen Colbert Report? So I want you to know that I worked on the Hill, and I had never seen someone skateboarding in my life down those marble hallways, and it made me happy that she could stand her own even on the Colbert Report and do a great job. So we know she's fighting for us in Washington all the time, fighting the bigger battles than this. So it's great to be here. Thank you.
Thank you, Supervisor. As Bevan mentioned, in the Treasurer's Office, we are responsible for safeguarding the city's money. And as the Treasurer of the city, what we wanted to do is try and extend that skill and that promise to helping people in San Francisco really be better off in the ways and better enabled to handle their own money successfully. As the mayor mentioned, we started by passing a permanent moratorium on any new check cashers or payday lenders in San Francisco. That affects all the saturated parts of the city, particularly right here in the Mission and many of our low-income neighborhoods. As also you heard, we launched Bank on San Francisco over 3 years ago now, and to date we have helped over 40,000 individuals move from being unbanked to banked, so they all have an opportunity to get away from these predatory check cashers. Today we're excited to kick off Payday Plus San Francisco to give people an alternative to the payday lending loans so that when they need emergency cash, they can find it in a healthy way, an alternative way. That is really the problem, as the mayor pointed out. There really are so few alternatives to these payday lenders. This is what's so exciting about our program today, is that we understand this will be one of the first healthy alternatives to a payday lending loan, and there are 4 major advantages that these Payday Plus loans and these credit unions will offer. First and foremost, as you've heard already, a non-predatory rate, a short-term loan of up to $500 with, by the way, Mr. Mayor, a maximum APR of 18%. Some might beat that number. It's a good challenge for you to give them. And that's compared to, as you heard, the starting point of about 300 to 400% APR for payday lending loans, and it goes up from there. Not only that, but folks who take out this Payday Plus loan will be able to build a credit history. They will be able to come out of this experience with hopefully a positive experience, a positive credit history, which will enable them to move further in their financial journey. And overall, we want to reduce debt for families. We want to see that they have an opportunity to get out of the debt cycle and really be successful so that they can make real progress for their families. Probably one of the most important things we're looking at doing is providing access, though, to healthy financial institutions. Someone who's using a check casher and a payday lender is in a dead-end situation. There's nowhere to go up from there in terms of getting help with other things they might need. Once somebody's in a relationship with a credit union or a bank, they can, as their needs progress, have somewhere to go and talk about getting a car loan, a school loan, a home mortgage, whatever the case may need. This is how all the rest of us survive and are successful. We want to make sure everyone has that same opportunity. It's so easy. It's so easy to access these Payday Plus loans. Just go to any of our participating credit unions, stop by one of their branches, and you'll be happy to find someone there to talk to you about it. We also have a strong allegiance with our partnership at the United Way. Their Bay Area 211 number is providing on-the-phone service to folks. I do want to, at this time, introduce the names of the credit unions and their representatives from each of them who are standing up there with us. They have shown great commitment by offering this service. The credit unions include the Mission SF Federal Credit Union. Raise your hands. the Northeast Community Federal Credit Union, Patelco, the Redwood Credit Union, San Francisco Federal Credit Union, and Spectrum Federal Credit Union. I would also like to thank the McCann World Group Agency for providing pro bono marketing services to the program. And probably most importantly, we'd like to thank the New America Foundation for their incredible help in pulling this together. We worked with them and a number of other incredible institutions, including the Center for Responsible Lending, who've helped us learn how we can make a difference in this area. At this time, I'd like to introduce Stephen Stapp, the President and CEO of the San Francisco Federal Credit Union, to speak to you representing our credit union partners. Stephen?
Good morning. First of all, thank you for coming out and helping us really kick off this really important program. And I'd first like to say thank you to Treasurer Jose Cisneros for really leading this effort, working with us and the coalition of credit unions, Mayor Newsom, Congresswoman Jackie Spear, and the County Board of Supervisors. We really appreciate the support and really kicking off this program. Again, the credit unions here are 6 credit unions here in San Francisco that really represent the community. We're here to help the community, and that's why we are so excited to see this as a kickoff. We finally do, as of today now, have an alternative for the citizens of San Francisco for payday lending. So I think that's a great accomplishment. But credit unions just don't stop right there with making a loan. We're really looking to help and better financially educate our members of the credit union. We give them the financial literacy, arm them with the tools to better manage their finances so that they can get out of these debt traps and really have a better life. We do offer other products and services. So while this program works for some, as the members come in and visit with us in the credit union, many times we're able to find them an alternative, a different type of loan product that's cheaper, that's more beneficial, and that's advice that people will find at credit unions and they won't find at payday lenders. And that's, I think, the real difference between us and the payday lenders. I do know that in kicking off this program, we've been able to help some members. I know just recently I had a member, I found out over Thanksgiving that her father had passed away. Upon her return, she had no funds since she had to travel out of the state. She had no funds to be able to pay for her electricity, her food bill, and I knew that we had just the program for her. So the next Monday, she was down at the credit union. We were able to assist her with this type of loan, and she has been really grateful for this particular help that we've been able to help. And I know we're going to hear more stories. It's affecting real individuals here in San Francisco, and again, I think that's a key difference. Credit unions we help the community. Somos socios con la comunidad, so we are here as community partners, and if you don't belong to a credit union, I'd ask that you join a credit union because you're helping out your community. Your dollars stay right here and the loans stay right here. We don't ship them off into foreign destinations, so it's really helping the people here in San Francisco. So on behalf of the 6 credit unions that are participating, thank you for being here, and we're just really excited to launch and kick off this program. So thank you.
Thank you, Stephen. And at this time, I'm honored to bring to you an actual member of the public, a customer of one of our first Payday Plus loans. I'd like to introduce Mark Laws, who's here today to speak about his experience of using payday loans in the past and his now having a Payday Plus loan. Mark?
Hi, thank you. If I'm a little nervous, I don't do this often. My experience came from being poor. I was born poor. I live poor. I live paycheck to paycheck like most everybody does. And when my mother died, I didn't have a way to get there. I collected a lot of money from my friends to get to St. Louis, as much as they could give me, but I still didn't have pocket money. So what I did is I went to the Payday store because they had the advertisements. We'll help you. We'll get you out. We'll save you. And that's what I thought. I went in. I got a $300 loan, but immediately they charged me $45. $255. It wasn't much, but it helped. I came back. I lost 2 weeks of work. and I was still broke. And when I went in to pay, I mentioned, God, this hurts. She said, don't worry about it. Don't worry about it. We can give you another one. This went on for a year. For 1 year, I paid $45 every 2 weeks, and it rolled over. My car broke down somewhere in there, and I went to them and said, could I please just have a little bit more time? Just a little bit more time. They said no. The manager of Check and Go said, go over to, Money Mart. Money Mart, and they'll give you one, and then you can pay us off. I did it. They gave me $500, but they broke it off in 2 loans. 2. So no longer was I paying $45 every 2 weeks. I was paying $90 every 2 weeks. Finally, Salvador from Mission SF Credit Union noticed that I was writing checks constantly to these places. And he asked me what was going on. I explained it to him. And about a month later, he came to me and he said, we think we have a product for you. We think we can help you out. And he explained to me, at that time, was the Lifesaver loan. And it made sense. I could pay off Money Mart and have time to pay. And that's all I needed was a little bit of time. I'm a good person. I pay my bills. But I needed a little time. And these people were ruthless. And when I didn't pay, before I met Salvador, they would go into my checking account automatically 3 days before they said they would. And from that point, I would get overdraft fees, $35 a time. And there was nothing I could do. I felt trapped. And Mission SF reached out to me and they showed me, we are your friends. We are your neighbors. And we care about you. And from that point on, I've built my credit. I have 3 good things on my credit now where I had nothing. I have an opportunity when something happens, I know I can go to Salvador and my credit union, and they're there for me. And they smile, and they know my name. And these banks are not your friends. These people are not there for you. They're there for money. And that's it. Thank you.
Mark, thank you very much for that compelling story. At this time, I'd like to introduce Ann Stuhldreher, Senior Fellow at the New America Foundation and former advisor to Governor Schwarzenegger, where she was instrumental in launching Bank on California and also a strong supporter of the Bank on San Francisco program. Ann.
Thank you so much, Treasurer. Wow, this is a great day in San Francisco. Really, for too long, people who faced a cash crunch and had few options only had one choice. They could go to one of these places we all know on Mission Street with the neon signs. And yes, Mr. Mayor, you're right, they do provide a service, but it's expensive. On average, when people take out a $300 loan there, there's research that shows that, probably not unlike Mark, they pay back an average of $800. So now, thanks to the hard work and the leadership of a lot of people up here and a lot of the great work of a lot of you out there, there's now a better option and a better way. And we need to get the word out about that better way. And let me tell you, these credit unions may not have fancy neon signs, but they have something that's a lot better. They have a fair product. And they have the financial counseling and advice that Steve just described. So, you know, I wish I could say that this was just a problem in the Mission District and in San Francisco, but it's not. Last year in California, there were more than 10 million payday loan transactions throughout the state. There's a huge demand for short-term credit in the state and in this nation. And we need more financial institutions to step up with products that really work for people and are affordably priced. We also need policymakers to step up and put forward really good consumer financial protections. You know, especially we need policymakers to implement these rate caps on loans to set a fair price. This is something that 16 other states have done. This has happened in red states, it's happened in blue states, it's been put forward by Republicans and Democrats. This is something that we need in California and we can make happen. So you can see there's really a lot to discuss about the problems of payday loans, the challenges, and what we can do about them. And that's why, after this press conference, I want to transition all of us into the room right behind us, where we're going to have a community conversation about this. What can we do about these challenges? What's happening in Sacramento and in Washington, D.C. on these issues? And how can we really get the word out about this great product? You know, these credit unions in the city, again, they don't have a big advertising budget. So how people are going to find out about this is really through word of mouth. And so it's up to all of us to really spread the word. So when this concludes, I encourage you to grab a burrito at the back there. We've got lunch for everyone. Take a seat and really join the conversation. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Ann. And again, thank you to all the community partners who joined us here today, who've done so much to help us with our financial empowerment work, our financial education work, and all the good deeds we're trying to do here in San Francisco to help out the folks that need to hear these messages the most. At this time, we're open to taking questions on this topic. We're happy to take your questions. Yes, Barbara.
Just on a kind of a process, how do, practically speaking, the loans differ from, going into some, corner operation in terms of qualifying for a loan, getting a loan, the time? Can you just walk in and get a loan? Do you need to qualify for it in some way?
There are, let me say a couple of things, and then Stephen, if you want to chime in. There are actually requirements to getting a payday loan. Someone does have to have a bank account, and I believe they have to have an income or a job, some sort of source of employment. So that's actually why they're called payday loans, because you're going to hopefully repay them back on your next payday. Well, the Payday Plus loans will ask for the same conditions, but pretty much be handled in much the same way. Stephen, do you want to chime in?
Actually, Jose's answered pretty much the question. And so we really designed it to have some criteria, but it's the same as Bank on San Francisco. So we're looking for those that are residents of the community, some income source that we can verify. And usually the process just takes within a day or 2 or 3 days to really take care of this transaction and get the loan. So.
Got the first kind would be able to get one of your loans?
Yes.
But there's a limitation, which we should also note. Just 3 loans per year.
Yeah. 3 loans per year.
And you got to pay back in order to get the next.
That's right. We want to keep people in a healthy place. Then, of course, there's all the benefits that come with this: the lower interest rate, the longer repayment period, and the credit history, as well as the relationship with a healthy financial institution.
Will people be required to start a membership with the credit union to qualify for the loan?
They do not need to be a prior member of the credit union, but as a customer, becoming a customer and taking out the loan, they pretty much by default do become a member of the credit union, yes. Credit unions are cooperative organizations, and essentially all their customers are also members and part owners of the credit unions. So they get a little stake in the game, too. Yes, sir.
Excuse me. AARP Sacramento. I just got a question. The only bill that we opposed on this topic was to raise the minimum from 300 to 500. Is there any positive steps? I know Virginia's thinking about it. I don't know where they're at to control the interest rate on what we tend to call legal loan sharking.
This was in the Consumer Financial Protection Agency Act, I believe.
Actually, there are only a handful of states that have capped usury. California has not. And my effort is an effort to try and nationalize a cap so that there would be a cap of 36% for usury in the country. We have not been successful in doing that because, as you might be aware, payday lenders have a fabulous campaign war chest that they dole out freely in Washington and in Sacramento, for that matter. So we still have our work cut out for us.
Thank you, Connor, so much.
On San Francisco, why is this needed?
Bank on San Francisco is actually a program which reaches out to folks and helps them, if they don't have a bank account, learn how they can access a bank account for themselves. So Bank on San Francisco really addresses the problem of folks without bank accounts having nowhere to go but to a check casher, where they pay oftentimes as much as $1,000 a year in fees just for the privilege of cashing their paychecks. That is simply about having a way to get access to your pay if you don't have a bank account. We just want to let people know they have an opportunity to have a bank account with a credit union or a bank and be able to avoid paying all those fees. Those bank accounts still, though, are different from an alternative to a payday lending, which is actually a loan. And what we've been struggling with up till now is, what can we tell people? Where can they go to avoid having to pay these 3 to 4 to 500% APR or more? And where can they get low-dollar loans without having a credit history or that type of thing? And now we have an alternative for them. So it really is a complement to the offerings and the education we offer through the Bank on San Francisco program.
The popularity of the payday lending is that, as the mayor noted, they're so ubiquitous. They're everywhere. You've got 6 credit unions that are going to be trying to compete, and then there's also kind of the fear and intimidation factor that some folks who are not in the mainstream feel about going to a traditional financial institution. How do you get around both of those with such few members?
Those are exactly the challenges that we're asking for help with today. We have a lot of folks who are unfamiliar with dealing with mainstream financial institutions, be it banks or be it credit unions. And also, as you well point out, there are just not as many of them as there are the payday lenders and the check cashers. So they're not in front of people every 5 steps that they take down through the neighborhood. That's why we really need this announcement to really get some help in terms of getting this message to folks, letting them know that they're welcome and in a place that maybe they've never even entered before, and also letting them know where they can go to get a better product so they can actually help themselves. We think that with education and opportunities, people will get over that, and we saw that happen with the Bank on San Francisco program, where literally, as the mayor mentioned, tens of thousands of folks have moved from being unbanked to banked.
Just to underscore that, the same limitations existed with Bank on San Francisco, but there was an aggressive marketing campaign, a very culturally competent marketing campaign, and we saw more people come on board. I expect you'll see the same thing here. As we roll this out, we market it. You've got the 6 people that started. Bank on San Francisco started similarly with just a few banks, a few credit unions, and you saw others that recognized the opportunity to do the right thing and stepped up. You'll see the same thing happen here, and there'll be more. I think you'll see this scale. You'll have people that will say, hey, I actually signed up. It's easy. It's a lot better than being out on 6th and Market at midnight where there's other kind of predatory issues right outside the doors. It's a lot safer. It's a lot more appropriate. These are credit unions that are already in the community. So I think you'll start seeing this, the adoption rates increase substantially over the next few years.
More credit unions on board, is that?
They'll come on. It's inevitable. I mean, these guys are the leaders. They'll be rewarded accordingly, and you'll start to see the others jump on board, and you'll see, I think, other institutions, not just credit unions, join in as well.
Back from the payday lending industry?
What's interesting, you know, we forget often who owns these payday lending folks. It's a lot of banks that own them. So there's, you know, it depends. You know, the banks have a stake in all this discussion as well. They love to separate themselves from these, but the reality is they're absolutely interdependent. So that's where a lot of the pushback comes from.
And we may have 6 credit unions, but they do have some of the multiple offices. So we will have more than places that folks can go. We just want to get the word out.
And just call, and you guys always give me a hard time when I say this, but call 311.
Exactly.
That's the easiest way to learn about where you could get.
Absolutely. Any other questions? Thank you again for your time today. Please grab a burrito and join us inside for our panel conversation. Please join us inside. Sorry.
That's okay.
Thank you for a good job. You were great.
Thank you.
I met you one other time. You might
That was at least a few years ago.
Well, I tried to get you with the mayor. I tried to get a picture with the mayor.
Oh,
it didn't quite work out. You want to see if we can grab a picture with Jackie Spears? She's right over there in the red coat.